So the next thing that happened is that the British ambassador in Russia is called in by Rasputin, who then shows him the document where Germany suggested that Russia and France should attack Britain. At the same time, he is made out that Germany is going as if Britain was poor. Little Britain, you need German help, and that attitude irritated the British. And at the same time, he's asked, why are you building this fleet? And he says, we're not going to use it against a European power, we're not going to use it against the British, we're going to use it against Japan. Well, naturally, Japan instantly entered into an alliance with Britain, and that was where they got their first friend and began building their fleet, which they then used against Russia. In the Sino-Japanese War of 1904. The Norwegians can be thankful for that war because it made Russia so powerless for a while that the Norwegians could afford to break away from Sweden. Now begins a period where Britain and France begin to find each other. So what Britain did was they sent their crown prince on holidays to Paris, where he wined and dined all the most influential people in France, charmed the ladies, and basically began to influence French opinion. And of course, if you can have an entente between France and Britain, between France and Italy, you can do it between France and Britain. And having done that, you can do it between Britain and Russia, that everybody agrees who's going to have what, to respect each other's colonial borders, not to try and interfere with each other's affairs, help each other if necessary, and so on and so on. So now suddenly we see a picture where Germany is becoming surrounded. And these can then be cemented into bloc alliances. So Germany has its triple alliance and its Berlin-Baghdad axis. But France and Russia have an alliance. Britain has an alliance with Japan. And my enemy's enemy becomes my friend. Now, we then need to consider the climate, before I go to a finish, of what will it mean to people at that time. Things seemed very, very ordinary and acceptable and nice, but under the surface things were going on, and people were arming and ready to make a war, and more convinced that a war must happen, and a war had, if it's going to happen, we must make sure we win. So when finally something does happen, and I don't mind the kid if you don't, but when things finally do happen, the question is who's going to get in the first punch. And Russia is slowly becoming more and more powerful militarily, and Germany was afraid of what would be the consequences if it did. So when the opportunity comes to start a war and make it look as if Russia started it, that was part of the point, then Germany wants to go ahead. At least not Germany, powers within Germany. And again, it's not countries declaring wars on countries, there are individuals pressing to start a war. And then finally comes the thing that starts it. But right before, there have been two major wars in the Balkans. So war has become part of the mentality and the mental climate. And excuse me saying so, but that is actually rather like what is happening right now. Right now. We've got this war in Syria, yes, but also in the Ukraine. The the barrier to war is being lowered right now, and it's rather a scary proposition. So now comes the final act of the tragedy, and it is somewhat very tragic in lots of ways. Austria-Hungary was extremely anxious that the events in the Balkans, where the Balkan states do exactly like Prussia and Sardinia before them, they have a secret alliance, they're going to attack the Ottoman Empire altogether and drive it out of the Balkans, which they do, and then have an internal war after that. This situation becomes rather like the Arab Spring, where you have a revolt in Tunisia that then infects the country next to it, and the next, and the next. And of course, the idea that the people of the Balkans should suddenly start fighting and throwing out the empires that have possessed them is a real danger in the Austrian-Hungarian eyes. And so the Austrian-Hungarian military requested 26 times in the period before the First World War, permission to attack Serbia. And every time this was quashed by diplomats in the Austrian-Hungarian diplomatic corps and by the successor to the crown, Franz Ferdinand. So actually Franz Ferdinand, the man who was shot at Sarajevo, is actually the man who stopped Serbia being invaded 26 times. It's rather tragic to think of. Not only that, but he had a recipe for Austria-Hungary when he took over, where he would make it into a United States of Austria, where each national group had its own representation and government. That was his plan. And his uncle, who was reigning, was dead scared of what would happen when he was died. So when Franz Ferdinand died, Franz Ferdinand died, Emperor Franz Joseph said these words: "God has been very good to me. I have one less thing to worry about before I die." So, the news. I don't want to bore you with with an incredibly long list of details of what happened, but I would like to finish by letting the soldiers themselves, who I've just got to find the right program. Should be this one. That's it. I'm going to simply let the soldiers themselves sing their version of what the war actually was about. This is from a film, Oh What a Lovely War, made up of songs sung by soldiers in the war. And this man is the last of his family to be shot, and he's going to join the rest of his family in the rest of the film. And of course now he is dead.
Right, come unknown soldier. No, sir. 294, Smith, yeah. You'll have to move, son. It's 2 minutes to 11 now. You're the last one. Right, lad. Just follow the tape.
And so he passes the diplomat signing the peace treaty, the ceasefire. Here are his mother, his wife, his daughter, and his sister. And these are all members of his own family that have died during the war.
Granny? Granny, what did Daddy do in the war?
And when they ask us how dangerous it was, oh, we'll never tell them. No, we'll never tell them. We spent our